Today, I'm going to rank every Red Dead Redemption 1 antagonist in a tier list, starting from the worst antagonists and going all the way up to the best antagonists. 99% of my viewers are unsubscribed, so if you like to see more content like this, subscribe as we'll be posting tier lists every single day. In last place, I got Colonel Allende. I think Allende is probably one of the worst characters in this entire game. I feel like he's shown as this big bad character, but I feel like he's not really any more than DeSanta is. And while I guess he is the colonel of the army and kind of the guy who really leads the Mexican government in Nueva Paradiso, I don't think it's that interesting. And I feel like he's this big bad character, kind of like Leviticus Cornwall. It's like, oh, you finally get to meet him here, and then he sets you up for a trap, and then it's just not that satisfying when you actually do eventually get to kill him. And I think people like DeSanta and Espinoza are just better versions of this character. And I just think when I got to kill Allende and Bill Williamson, I didn't care about Allende at all. Like, I know it ended the Mexican Revolution and kind of ended this whole thing, but the fact that he's only in one actual mission where you get to talk to him and he's just not that interesting of a character. And I don't know, I just don't think he's this big bad character that he kind of seems to be in Red Dead Redemption 1. So I'm going to have to put him in F tier. In 7th place, I got Normandyke. If there's anyone that's stupid enough to work for Bill Williamson, it has to be this guy. And he's also pretty stupid and just is a funny character. But I mean, come on, there's not really much going on with him. And you just get to capture him and then eventually, take him back to Bill and kill him. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting, but I don't think Normandyke is really even an antagonist at points. Like, he's just kind of Bill's second in command. He doesn't really do much. So I'm going to also have to put him in F tier. He's really not an antagonist in this game. And while, I guess he technically is, he doesn't really do anything as an antagonist in Red Dead Redemption 1. In 6th place, I've got Espinoza. I think Espinoza is just a way more unhinged DeSanta, and he's just way worse of a person. But I kind of do like the dynamic between the two of them. They both want to be Allende's second man, and they both kind of just go over each other and kind of hate each other. So I don't know. That part is fun. But I think Espinoza as a character isn't properly introduced as well and isn't properly used as well as someone like DeSanta. Well, I don't think DeSanta is an amazing character. I think Espinoza is clearly a little bit worse of a character than him. And while, Espinoza does work to tell the story, I don't think he's that interesting as a character, and I don't think that Espinoza really advances the story along enough. And when I actually do get to kill him, it's not fun enough where I was like, yes, I finally got Espinoza down. It's just kind of an okay kill. So I don't know. He's an okay character, but really nothing special. So I'm going to have to put him in C tier. In 5th place, I've got DeSanta. I feel like DeSanta is a lot better friends with John than, he seems. I totally understand that he eventually does betray John, and I feel like that kind of does help. But I think they actually kind of become friends for a little bit, and I know DeSanta, kind of tries to get John killed and, puts him on really specific missions. But I like how DeSanta just kind of plays with everyone, and I also like the fact that he's secretly gay, kind of just like Bill, which is I don't know, it's kind of an interesting thing where it's you can pick up on it. I guess you can clearly see it in the game, but it's just kind of funny to see that DeSanta's this Scarface type character. He really plays up like Tony Montana, and he just is also gay at the same time. I don't know, it really just kind of works. And I think DeSanta is a pretty interesting character. Also, when he betrayed me, I was pissed and I was so ready to kill him. And eventually when you do kill him, it is really fun. And I think he's one of the characters that I was actually yes, I finally get to kill Captain DeSanta. I don't know. I feel like that also has to just vault him up a little bit more. I definitely think the same way about someone like Bill or Javier, but I don't think they got the same amount of time as DeSanta did, and I think DeSanta's death was a little bit more satisfying than both Bill and Javier. In 4th place, I got Bill Williamson. I actually really kind of like Bill in this game. It seems kind of weird that Bill actually became a leader of a gang after Red Dead Redemption 2, because he seemed really stupid, and everyone was like, oh, Bill is so dumb and so stupid, and somehow he became the leader of one of the biggest gangs. I just think it's really interesting because you see Bill is just a super coward and is always running away. He never wants to actually get into a fight with John, so I think that's pretty cool. And also just the fact that Bill is actually a member from the first gang, I feel like it elevates him a little bit. But I think his cowardice really shows in this game, and really is just kind of my favorite part, because it shows Bill is the leader of this big game, but he's still scared to lose everything, and he's still this big dumb guy that he was in Red Dead Redemption 1. And you can see that he kind of just lucked his way into being the main man in Red Dead Redemption 1, because it seems like he just had a gang of a bunch of big stupid people like him. So I don't know, I like him as a character. He's definitely not as well developed as some of these other people, but I think the fact that Bill is a character from Red Dead Redemption 2, and he is like the main villain for, like, I guess kind of part of the first chapter and the second chapter, I feel like that really elevates him up a little bit, and especially because of how violent he is while still being this weird dumb guy. I don't know, I feel like it's a really cool characterization of a character, and I think he's definitely in B tier. In third place, I've got Javier Escuela. I think Javier's characterization in this game, even though he only has one like actual scene in the entire game, is really great. Like, I mean, I guess you can put him in the jail and there's a scene there, but I love this scene where, John finds him and he's like, "Hey, it's been so long since I've seen you, brother." And I don't know, I just love that scene because it shows that Javier is still this like slimy guy. I mean, I guess he's not a slimy guy in the first one, but it really characterizes him as a very slimy guy and this guy that's always trying to hide away from stuff. He and Bill are really similar in that way, where they want to escape their past. It seems like Javier really just wants to go by and leave the Van der Linde gang in the past. So I don't know, I really like Javier's character, and the fact that you see him as this bad guy all of the Nuevo Paradiso chapter, and you don't see him the entire time. Javier is this silent or like unseen character the entire time, and I think the fact that when you see him, he actually puts on a really good performance, or the voice actor puts on a really good performance. And when you see him, it's like, this is just like a snake. He's just like a guy that's like a rat, and he's always going to try and survive. And I mean, eventually he does run away and tries to bargain with John, but of course, you know, John doesn't allow him to live because he has more important things to live for. And I don't know, I just really like Javier's character in Red Dead Redemption 1, and I think they really characterize him as this kind of like snaky or ratty guy who's always going to try and survive no matter what the cost is and no matter what the circumstance is, because he'll always try and find some way to get out of the scenario that he's in. In second place, I've got Dutch Van der Linde. I love Dutch in Red Dead Redemption 1, and I think he steals every scene that he's actually in. I love the first time you see him shooting at John, and then when he shows up in the bank, I feel like every single scene that Dutch is in, he always comes up with this charismatic way that really connects to his character in Red Dead Redemption 2. But I feel like in Red Dead Redemption 1, he's even more charismatic, but he's always like a more slimy charismatic, where he tries to weasel his way out of things, similar to like what Javier and Bill do, but he does it in a so much better way. I just think Dutch's character in Red Dead Redemption 1 really sees the character he's in Red Dead Redemption 2, but just kind of corrupted and turned to a fault. Like, of course, in Red Dead Redemption 2, you can see his character, you know, go that way, where he actually becomes a worse person, and he becomes more erratic and more anarchist and always trying to do things to take away from the status quo. But in Red Dead Redemption 1, you see this man who's kind of fallen from grace, and he's actually with these like Native Americans who he's kind of turned his way. And I don't know, I love exactly what he's doing, and I think everything that Dutch does, every time he's in a scene, he always steals it, because the performance here by the voice actor is so good. And I don't know, I feel like every time Dutch is in one, it just is the best scene of the entire game. And I don't know, I love his scene, and I think his like charisma with John, and the fact that he's kind of like the big bad guy the entire time. It's like, oh, Dutch did this, Dutch did that, and you finally get to see him at the end of the game, and he's just this not so bad of a character. He's just fallen from grace so far, and he can't really, you know, do the same things that he was able to in Red Dead Redemption 2, because he doesn't have that same big gang of people that actually want to do stuff, but he still has these super erratic and anarchist plans that he does. And I mean, they don't really ever work out. He tries to kill John at one point. He tries to rob the bank, and they all don't work out. And then John eventually gets to him. He realizes that his time is kind of up. And I don't know, I love this character in Red Dead Redemption 1, but he doesn't get enough screen time, so I'm going to have to put him in A tier. In first place, it has to be Agent Ross. Agent Ross takes everything that he sees Agent Milton do in the first game, where it's like Agent Milton really skirts the law on certain things, but he does try and give the Van der Linde gang some way to like get out of it. And he's just like, fuck it, I'm gonna throw it out the door. He captures Abigail and Jack. He's like, John, you're gonna have to get everyone, and you're gonna have to kill all your gang members to get your family back. And then he's just like, oh, fuck it, John, you're actually gonna die too. And I love the character, and he's just so manipulative and so evil as a character. And I don't know, I think he's a great character, and there's a lot of solid characterization here. You don't really get to know that much about Agent Ross, but you see he has a family, he's got a brother, and they're all nice to you, and it seems like they're all good people. And it seems like Ross is someone that, you know, really skirts around the law. Like, he never does stuff according to plan. He always, like, you know, is doing illegal stuff to get the job done, but he does get the job done. He's a hard worker and all that. And I just think this is the perfect character to end the game. And when you come out and you're like, I know a lot of people know John dies before he actually does die, but you come out of that game and you're like, oh, the last chapter, you get to hang out with your family, you get to hang out with Uncle, and then Agent Ross comes and kills John. He kills the main character. And while I don't think it's like as satisfying as a death as Red Dead Redemption 2 is, I think it's still a really good way to end the game. And eventually killing Ross, I think, is definitely the high point in the entire game and really finishes off the whole cycle of violence, where it's like the violence will always continue because Jack eventually does have to kill Ross. And I don't know. I love that as a character, and I feel like he really just embodies a terrible person and an evil person, and that's why I think Agent Ross has to go in S tier. So that concludes my Red Dead Redemption 1 antagonist tier list. Comment down below what you would change, and if you guys do like videos like this, I'm going to be posting tier lists like this every single day, so like this video and subscribe if you want more.